This kind of clarity rarely feels dramatic while it is happening. It may look like closing a chat before it becomes a secret attachment. It may look like not replying to a message that arrives late at night with no real intention behind it. It may look like refusing to feed a fantasy after one polite conversation, because you have learned that your imagination can build a home where Allah has not opened a door. There is a deep spiritual discipline in this, because the heart that has waited a long time can become vulnerable to anything that resembles hope. Someone gives you attention, and suddenly you picture a future. Someone uses religious language, and you assume their character is safe. Someone says they are serious, but their actions avoid family, avoid clarity, avoid responsibility, and your heart wants to make excuses because you are tired of starting over. Sabr is not passive waiting here. Sabr is not sitting in sadness while life passes by. It is the strength to say, I will not enter a door that requires me to hide from Allah in order to feel loved. It is restraint when your loneliness tells you to accept less. It is tawakkul when your fear says, what if no one else comes? It is making dua with trembling hands, then living in a way that does not contradict what you asked Allah for. If this recognition lands somewhere tender in you, let the video receive a like quietly, as a small acknowledgement of the patience people do not see. Because waiting with dignity is not easy. It means you may watch others announce engagements while you are still learning how to sleep peacefully without imagining the worst. It means you may smile at family gatherings while aunties ask questions that feel heavier than they realize. It means you may keep your standards without explaining them to people who think any marriage is better than loneliness. But Allah sees the private discipline. He sees the message you did not send, the boundary you kept, the tears you wiped before prayer, and the moment you chose His pleasure over a temporary comfort that would have cost you your peace. The second quiet sign is that you become more careful, not more fearful. This distinction matters because spiritual maturity is not paranoia. It is not treating everyone as dangerous or assuming every person who disappoints you was sent to destroy you. Sometimes people are simply not ready. Sometimes they are sincere but incompatible. Sometimes they like the idea of marriage but cannot carry the weight of responsibility. And sometimes you are the one who still needs healing before you can receive love without testing it, doubting it, or pushing it away. Being chosen for purification does not mean you are better than others. It means Allah is teaching you to carry your heart with amana. You begin to notice what you used to ignore. You listen to how a person speaks about their family, their anger, their past, their obligations. You notice whether they respect your boundaries or try to make you feel guilty for having them. You notice whether their deen appears only in quotes and appearances, or whether it shows in patience, honesty, humility, and accountability. You become careful with your own emotions too. You do not allow every kind word to enter deeply. You do not share your wounds with someone who has not earned trust. You do not confuse vulnerability with intimacy when there has been no halal commitment. This care is not coldness. It is mercy toward your future self. It is understanding that the heart is not a public place where everyone should be allowed to walk in, leave marks, and disappear. The one who has waited with Sabr eventually learns that the sweetness of love must not come at the expense of obedience. A connection that pulls you away from salah, makes you hide your conversations, fills you with constant anxiety, or encourages you to disrespect your family is not becoming beautiful just because your feelings are strong. True guidance can be emotional, but it will require you to betray the light Allah already placed inside you. This is why some delays are protection. You may have thought Allah was withholding love while He was actually withholding a version of love that would have made you smaller. He may have been teaching you to recognize the difference between being desired and being honored. There is a scene many people know, but rarely admit. You are alone at night, maybe after everyone in the house has slept, and you make wudu slowly because your heart feels too tired to speak. You stand for prayer, and the words come out with effort. In sujood, you do not even know how to phrase the dua anymore. You have asked for marriage, you have asked for healing, you have asked for the right person, you have asked for contentment if it is not time. Then you pause, and all that comes out is, Ya Allah, I do not want to choose wrong because I am lonely. That dua is a turning point, not because the next morning everything changes, but because your relationship with waiting changes. You begin to see that the real danger is not only being single longer than you expected, the real danger is entering something that looks like an answer while your heart is too wounded to discern. A person can arrive at the wrong time, with the wrong intention, and still sound like relief. A proposal can look good on paper, but leave your chest uneasy. A conversation can feel exciting, but slowly make your ibadah lighter. This is where istikhara becomes more than a ritual people mention after they have already decided. It becomes a posture of humility. You are saying, Ya Allah, I do not see what you see. If this is good for my deen and my life, make it easy in the right way. If it is not, turn it away and turn my heart away from it. And sometimes the answer is not a thunderous sign. Sometimes the person becomes inconsistent. Sometimes your family sees something you were too attached to notice. Sometimes a small comment reveals a value that would have caused pain later. Sometimes your own heart becomes calm enough to admit, I wanted this because I was tired, not because it was right. That kind of clarity hurts, but it is mercy. It is Allah saving you from building a future on emotional hunger. It is the hidden protection that only makes sense after you stop resisting it. The third quiet sign is that life starts to shift gently, almost without spectacle. Not every shift means your Nasib is immediately at the door, and it would be wrong to turn every coincidence into certainty. But there are seasons when Allah begins arranging your readiness through small, grounded changes. A conversation with your father that once felt impossible becomes calmer. Your mother, who used to avoid the topic or become anxious, suddenly speaks with more openness. A relative mentions someone respectable without pressure. You find yourself able to discuss marriage without panic, fantasy, or bitterness. You update a practical detail in your life, not because you are chasing marriage, but because you are becoming more stable. Maybe you start managing money with more discipline. Maybe you repair your sleep. Maybe you return to Quran in a way that softens your expectations. Maybe you stop speaking about marriage as if it is a rescue mission and start seeing it as a responsibility that will require patience from you too. These shifts are not glamorous, but they matter. They show that Allah may be preparing the ground before allowing anything to grow. People often look only for the person, but Allah may first prepare the home within you that will receive that person. If fear used to control you, He teaches you calm. If attachment used to blind you, He teaches you restraint. If rejection used to make you chase, He teaches you dignity. If comparison used to poison your gratitude, He teaches you to close the phone and make dua instead of scrolling until your heart becomes heavy. You begin to notice that you no longer react the same way to old triggers. A wedding invitation arrives, and yes, you feel a pinch in your chest, but you do not spiral for 2 days. Someone asks why you are still single, and instead of collapsing internally, you answer with grace and leave the conversation where it belongs. These are not small victories. They are evidence that Allah has been working on the parts of you that love alone cannot fix. A peaceful marriage cannot cure every unhealed wound. Sometimes Allah delays the meeting so the wound does not become the compass. Still, there must be nuance, because the heart can misuse spiritual language when it wants certainty. Some people hear about quiet signs and begin searching every detail of their day for hidden confirmation. A name appears twice, and they think it must mean something. A dream happens once, and they build an entire future on it. Someone says a sentence that sounds meaningful, and suddenly they ignore character, timing, family, and halal process. But Allah's guidance does not require chaos, obsession, or fear. It does not ask you to become mentally exhausted trying to decode every glance and delay. True guidance brings you back to responsibility. It invites you to look at what is real. Is there sincerity? Is there consistency? Is there respect for boundaries? Is there willingness to involve family at the right time? Is there emotional steadiness or only intensity? Does this connection make your prayer feel protected, or does it make you postpone prayer because you are waiting for a reply? Does it make you more honest or more secretive? Does it honor your dignity, or does it train you to accept confusion as normal? These questions are not unromantic, they are mercy. They protect the part of you that once confused anxiety with love. And when you begin asking them without bitterness, it is a sign that Sabr has made you wiser. You are no longer demanding that Allah prove His care by giving you what you want immediately. You are learning to receive His care even when He redirects you. Tell me in the comments, what did Allah make you outgrow before your heart began to feel ready again? Not every answer has to be dramatic. Maybe you outgrew secret conversations. Maybe you outgrew begging for closure. Maybe you outgrew comparing your timeline to your friends. Maybe you outgrew the belief that being chosen by a person is the only proof that you are lovable. Sometimes the most important preparation is not learning how to attract someone, but learning how not to abandon yourself when affection appears. A counterexample makes this clearer. Imagine someone receives a proposal from a person who seems ideal from a distance. The family is respectable, the words are polished, the religious appearance is reassuring, and everyone says this is a good opportunity. Yet every conversation leaves a tightness in the chest, not the nervousness of a serious step, but the heaviness of being subtly dismissed. When concerns are raised, they are minimized. When boundaries are mentioned, they are treated as inconvenience. When family involvement is discussed, the person delays without a clear reason. The lonely heart may say, be patient. Maybe this is the test before love. But Basra asks a deeper question. Is this Sabr, or is this self-erasure? Because patience does not mean ignoring red flags to keep a possibility alive. Tawakkul does not mean walking into fog and calling it faith. A halal connection can have challenges. Of course, families may need time. Personal histories may require compassion. People may be nervous, imperfect, still learning how to communicate, but there is a difference between difficulty that can be worked through with honesty and a pattern that repeatedly steals your peace. There is a difference between a person who says, I am serious and I want to do this correctly, and someone who keeps you emotionally invested while avoiding responsibility. There is a difference between modesty and secrecy. There is a difference between slow, wise timing and endless ambiguity. When Allah is writing something good for you, it will still require effort, patience, and maturity, but it will not require you to silence your conscience. It will not ask you to become smaller so the connection can survive. Sometimes the mercy is that the door does not open, even after you knock with tears. Sometimes the mercy is that your heart is disappointed before your life becomes entangled. Sometimes the mercy is that Allah lets you see a person clearly before your attachment becomes a cage. That is why the quiet signs are not about guessing who your Nasib is. They are about becoming the kind of believer who can recognize what supports your deen, your character, your peace, and your future responsibilities. There is also a softer kind of nearness that arrives inside you before it arrives around you. You may wake up one morning and realize the ache is still there, but it is no longer ruling you. You still want marriage, but you no longer feel humiliated by wanting it. You still make dua, but you are not bargaining with Allah as if His mercy must meet your deadline. You still feel tenderness when you see couples building a life, but you do not use their joy as evidence against yourself. This is a major inner shift. Hope becomes cleaner. It is no longer mixed with panic. You begin to prepare without obsessing. You learn how to communicate better. You ask married friends thoughtful questions, not out of envy, but out of maturity. You observe what makes a home peaceful, not only attraction, but mercy after disagreement, discipline with money, respect for family boundaries, the ability to apologize, the habit of praying even when emotions are tense. You realize marriage is not just being chosen. It is choosing every day with adab, restraint, honesty, and sacrifice. That realization humbles you. It makes you less interested in a fantasy and more ready for a real person who will have your flaws, fatigue, fears, and responsibilities. This is where loneliness before clarity begins to make sense. Allah was not simply making you wait. He was teaching you what kind of love can actually be lived. Love that cannot survive halal boundaries is not ready. Love that depends on secrecy is not safe. Love that makes you compete with someone's confusion is not mercy. But love that grows through clarity, family respect, prayer, patience, and mutual responsibility has a different texture. It does not always feel loud. It may even feel unfamiliar because your nervous system is used to chasing. Peace can feel strange to a heart trained by instability. So, when a calm possibility appears, you may not feel fireworks. You may feel steadiness. You may feel room to breathe. You may feel that your iman is not being negotiated. That quietness can be frightening at first, but sometimes what feels less dramatic is actually more sincere. And when the shift finally begins outside you, it may not look like a movie scene. It may look like a simple introduction that comes without pressure, a conversation that stays respectful, a family member who unexpectedly becomes supportive, a door that opens without forcing you to compromise what you promised Allah in private. You may find that the process still has uncertainty, because faith does not remove the need for wisdom. You still ask questions. You still pray istikhara. You still watch character over time. You still involve the right people. You still accept that Allah can redirect even a promising path if He knows it is not good. But there is a difference now. You are not moving from desperation. You are moving from trust. Your heart is not begging confusion to become love. It is waiting to see whether peace, character, and halal intention can stand consistently in the light. This is the fruit of Sabr that people often miss. They think Sabr ends when the person arrives. But Sabr has already changed the one who is waiting. It has taught you not to worship the idea of marriage. It has taught you that your worth was never suspended until someone chose you. It has taught you that Allah's timing is not late simply because it disagrees with your plan. It has taught you to stop measuring mercy only by what enters your life and to start noticing what was kept away. So, if your Nasib is near, the nearness may first be seen in your refusal to abandon your dignity, in your ability to walk away from emotional confusion, in your softer relationship with dua, in the calm readiness that replaces frantic searching. And if it is not near in the way you hoped, none of this patience is wasted. Allah does not waste the nights you spent choosing Him while your heart wanted comfort. What He writes will not require you to leave your iman at the door. It will not demand that you trade peace for attention. It will not make you beg to be honored. When love is written after Sabr, it arrives into the way that reminds you Allah knew your heart even when you could barely explain it yourself.